Well, this morning, we're joined by a retired military officer to expound on some of these issues. Can I call you officer?
You can.
All right, Officer Chisom Ogbonna, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, you did serve the Nigerian military. Now, I want to believe you're also part of those ex-servicemen, who are demanding this pension adjustment already. That pension adjustment conversation was on the front burner before the government announced a salary increase for active service personnel. And it appeared as if nobody remembered that, oh, we have retired personnel who've been, actually talking about adjusting their pension for quite some time. So what exactly would you say the government has promised and what have they failed to deliver?
The issue around the welfare and salary pension of retired military veterans is a very serious issue. But to have this discussion, we must look at it objectively. First of all, we have to discuss the problems, understand the issues, and then analyze how Nigeria can better manage these kind of issues to avoid future reoccurrence. The issue of pension adjustments, like you said, has been a story of the old. And just recently, the president announced the salary review of serving military personnel from 30 to 80%. And in the speech, it was in the review, it was captured for serving military personnel. So the veterans felt left out, kind of, because it was not spelled out explicitly that this increment, this salary review from 30 to 80% also affects the pension of the veterans. Of course, it is supposed to be something that is automatic because you serve to a particular rank before retiring, and your pension is a proportion of the salary of those still serving. So if you go to, for example, the rank of a captain before retiring, the salary, the pension is a reflective of what the the serving captain receives. So for the fact that the salary has been reviewed and increased, it is supposed to follow naturally that the pension also will be increased. So, but their concerns was that it was not spelled out clearly. And to trash this, you see the quick intervention from the Ministry of Defense, where they are locked down. The protest was called off yesterday.
What? Just to clarify, from your explanation now, this means that someone who is on a lower cadre, whose salary has now been increased, is liable to receive a higher pension eventually when they retire, even higher than somebody who, when the salary increase hasn't happened, was of a higher rank, like you said, a captain, for instance. Is that what you're saying?
What I meant is just like every other federal civil service parastatal, when you retire, your salary is a proportion of what, your pension is a proportion of what that particular rank is receiving. About 60% or thereabout. But then for the fact that the salary has been increased, let's say from, for instance, 200,000 to 300,000. So it is clear now that that rank on which you retired is no more receiving the salary it was receiving when you retired. Therefore, your pension should naturally increase to match the the new increment that the
for that particular
post, yeah,
or
for that
position.
particular rank. Yes.
Okay, rank. All righty then. Now, if the government can approve and implement increases for 7 soldiers, why do you think it's difficult to also put the ex-servicemen into consideration? Is it an administrative failure? Do you think it was an oversight? Or what exactly do you think happened?
While I understand the realities of the veterans, because I am one, I still believe that governance has to do with processes, policies, and financial realities. So a review can be announced, but there are a lot of processes that has to go through for it to be implemented. You understand? So the president said the increment is going to start from September. However, that is just an announcement. There are a lot of underlying processes and activities that must be put in place for that date to be achieved. So I would not say the government failed, but I see a gap because sometimes when there is a communication gap, it creates a misunderstanding between those that are making policies and those that the policies are going to affect, or those that are affected by the policies.
All right, and I mean, from the video that we're seeing now, for those who are watching on our YouTube, you could see some of the 7 soldiers, who are preventing the retired soldiers from, protesting or going beyond a certain point in the course of their protest. How do you explain that? I mean, if this is, if their protest or their agitation is acceded to by the government, some of the people who are serving can actually benefit from whatever agreement is reached. But they're the ones who are preventing them from protesting. What do you make of that?
Well, it is something of concern because a serving personnel will one day retire and become a veteran. So a veteran protesting is not categorically fighting for himself. He is fighting for those that would come after him. However, the soldiers that are still in active service, they have their duties, they have their orders. And sometimes when protests are not managed carefully, it tends to escalate. Hence the reason for not stopping them from protesting, but giving them that avenue to air their view and allow their voices to be heard.
So would you say that the serving personnel at the moment are in support of what the ex-servicemen are doing?
It is not their duty to come up openly to say, oh, I support this or I do not support this. However, on the long run, they will still be the people benefiting from this.
So if they will benefit, is it possible that they couldn't, just express their solidarity for the ex-servicemen who have, literally walked that line of work before?
Solidarity. Expression of solidarity, like you said, like I said before, the serving personnel have their orders, unlike the veterans that are more dynamic. You cannot have serving personnel coming out to the street to protest. It has not happened before. So, but veterans, because they are no longer in active service, they have the opportunity to express their full constitutional right, which peaceful protest is part of it. However, I would not say that the serving personnel are not in support of the protest. They are not. At the end of the day, if you look at the video, it was not clearly that they are pushing them back. It was more like, okay, we know you people are expressing your concerns, but how about this? How about that? And in issues like this, like I said, if it is not managed carefully, it might escalate because the protesters have underlying grudges, and no matter how disciplined they are, as ex-military
Emotions
personnel,
may get high.
emotions may get high. So the whole idea is to manage the situation, because it does not just tell on the fact that the veterans are protesting. It is also telling on the security architecture of the country. Because if you come out to see that the people who have spent decades of their lives defending a country is protesting, it is more like a slap. So the best way to go is to see how to quickly calm the situation.
Well, there's an argument. We understand that they were given audience by the Minister of Defense or his representative. And that argument stems from the fact that when these people were in service, it was a different dispensation. The challenges that the country faced in terms of security were different. Now we have active personnel who are confronting a totally different, range of security issues. Yeah. So, on the basis of legal and moral argument, would you say it's okay for them to demand an increase simply because the 7 personnel have gotten an increase from the government, bearing in mind that the challenges they faced during their time security-wise are not the same scale of challenges that is being faced by the current 7 personnel at the moment?
It is okay to demand an increase in pension because, like I said before, as salary is increasing, pension is supposed to naturally increase as well. Because the fact that you are no longer putting on the uniform does not mean that you are not an asset. You can involve in a community security. You can be the eye of the government in your community. So they are right. It is their right to demand for the pension increase. However, it is also important to go through it according to the dictates of the law, which is a peaceful protest. So,
right. Yeah. I'd like to ask, retired officer Chisom now, or once an officer, always an officer, right? When it comes to the military, they'll always say there are rules to this. There are channels to talk to. We've seen it play out with Justice Crack. We've seen it play out with other situations where they say, if you want to speak to the military, there are channels where you can do that. But now we see the members of the military, even though now retired, they're still part of the system, right? Now publicly come out to protest as regards their remuneration or remuneration now. So why wasn't the channel the military preach about not followed?
The military system is structured in hierarchy. So a junior officer can not just jump, for example, go and start confronting the chief of army staff about your concerns. You have a commander at every level. However, the veterans are no longer under this structure. You understand? We do not have a commander who is in charge, who commands. What we do is we have veteran leaders.
But is this same veterans that you speak of,
yes,
when issues regarding the military pops up, they will tell you the military issues should not be brought to the public. There are proper channels where these issues can be channeled through. Why do you have to bring military matters out? But the same veterans now have brought out this issue as regards to them to the public and rightly went to protest at the Ministry of Defense yesterday.
If it is an issue that has to do with the military, like the people that are in active service, it is they have structure of how the issues are channeled and addressed. But the veterans, like I said, they are no longer under the that structure of the military. They are more like civilians, though with military experiences. So they have, just like every other citizen that have right to peaceful protest. That is them expressing their fundamental human right as citizens of Nigeria.
Right.
So, and if you observe the protest yesterday, it was strategical. It was strategically positioned. They did not just come to Eagle Square to start protest. They went to the Ministry of Defense, where they believe their voices will be heard. And what happened? The permanent secretary represented the defense minister, who is also a veteran, and had a dialogue between with some of the senior veterans that were on ground, and promised that their voices has been heard, and their concerns will be taken into consideration. So it is not out of place for veterans to come out to protest. However, there are a lot of measures that should be put in place to avoid this kind of incidents, because it rubs off on.
Can you highlight one of those measures that the government can adopt to further, address issues like this?
Yes, there should be better communication between the government institutions and the veteran leaders. There should be proper communication, because, like I said before, when there is a communication gap, there tends to be misunderstanding between the policy makers and those that are being affected by these policies. So if there is a better understanding, that gap will be bridged. Then I think early intervention, before a protest like this comes up, there must be, series of discussions, series of plannings. So there should be early intervention. Issues like this should be handled early enough before it comes up to the public. And at the same time, I think respectful engagement, like what happened yesterday. The veterans should be heard, but the government should be given the opportunity to solve these challenges. Like what happened yesterday. Okay, we have heard your concerns. We are working so hard. We promise that all you have said will be taken care of. So and again, I feel there should be a better structure that handles, like a system that handles not just the welfare of the serving personnel. It should be in unison. If the welfare of the serving personnel is being considered, the welfare of the veterans should be considered alongside it, to avoid several back and forths.
All right.
But what do you imagine would be the fallout of, from what you just said, the police, for instance, the NSCDC, other people who have served in different capacities, all at the same time agitating and clamoring for, an increase in their pensions? What do you think would be the fallout of that?
Well, considering the security situation of Nigeria, I don't think it's what we want to see. But I feel some of these challenges did not just surface in one day. There have been traces, there have been discussions, there have been pointers to these issues. Like I said, early intervention. If you notice a concern, or if veterans or retired security personnel raise a concern, it should be looked at. And even if it is something that cannot be met at that particular time, better communication can help us achieve, can help us not get to this extent.
Do you think we should also be looking at what the financial implication of this would be? Because already the government is dealing with, the burden of having to, take care of the salary increase for the serving personnel, and then you have to now add the retired personnel in the mix as well. Are we also, thinking about, because these are people who have the interests of the country at heart. They served the country. Sadly, some of them even paid the ultimate sacrifice. In the spirit of patriotism, do you think they should also be considering that, perhaps government has a lot of other sectors to also spend money on, and not just on the ex-servicemen?
Yeah, like I said in the beginning, I said the issues should be, studied. The challenges should be analyzed, and way forward also should be discussed.
All right.
Like I said before, increasing salaries for Nigerian military personnel directly implies that pensions should increase. But if there is a system, like I initially stated, if there is a system that handles the welfare of both serving and retired personnel, they would have sat down and looked at it holistically, consider the economic implication and the processes and how the policy can be sustained before the announcement is made, so that when it's made, it's just, you understand,
straight ahead to implementation. But do you think if this increment comes in, of course, 7 members now, personnel have been increased, but those who are retired, if they also implement that increase, do you think it's sustainable?
Yes, I think it's sustainable. However, to sustain it, several policies will have to be, adjusted. You get, and institutions should be created around. It's not just passing a policy. There should be bodies surround that are saddled with the role of implementing that policy. So, and if they sit down and look at the consequences, the ways in which it can be sustained over a long period of time, or whether it cannot be sustained, or for example, I want to put the salary at this benchmark, but it is not sustainable. Why not we look for a balance where everybody can be captured? I think that will help.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Officer Chisom Ogbonna, retired military officer, for allowing us to understand how all of this play out, But we do hope that in the coming days we'll not be seeing more protests, but more salaries, retirements will be paid just as quickly as it comes in. But then that's a conversation this morning with you. We appreciate your time.